Newly confirmed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is at the U.S. Mexico border in Fort Bliss, Texas, on his first trip since taking office. Hegseth says President Trump wants 100% operational control of the border, and he's there to deliver. Now, this visit reinforces border security will be a top priority for the Pentagon under President Donald Trump. CBS News Ellee Watson joins us live from the Pentagon, and Ellie, Hegseth plans to deliver on the president's agenda, but do we know exactly what that will look like right now?
So far, it's looked like surging support to the border. It's looked like so far there have been an additional 1,500 service members sent to the border and the facilitation of these deportation flights. So using C-17 military aircraft to fly migrants from the U.S. to places like Honduras, Ecuador, Guatemala, Peru, and even today, one flight heading to India. We know over the weekend, Secretary Hegseth approved an additional 500 soldiers to head to the border. Those soldiers will start making their way this week and bring the total to about 4,500. It's important to note that there were already 2,500 service members at the border before the Trump administration came in. That presence has been largely there in both Republican and Democratic administrations to support customs and border protection. And now the second Trump administration is plussing that up.
Ellie, I want to talk about something else here, because just one day before the start of Black History Month, Hegseth said identity months are, quote, dead at the Pentagon. What can you tell us about that message?
Yeah, on Friday night, Secretary Hegseth released a memo saying what identity month's dead at DoD. It bans the Pentagon from using official resources to observe cultural awareness months like Black History Month, like Women's History Month, Pride Month, and National American Indian Heritage Month. Now, this is a continuation of Hegseth's first message to the force when he came in. After he was sworn in as Secretary of Defense, he issued a tweet that said there will be no diversity, inclusion, equity roles at DoD. Now, there has been some confusion over how to apply to comply with that mandate. I think 2 weeks ago, we saw the Air Force remove a course from basic military training that had to do with DEI, and in the course of removing that DEI course, it removed some videos of the Tuskegee Airmen, which caused a lot of backlash. Secretary Hegseth said that that removal was malicious implementation to try and criticize the anti-DEI movement, and that, of course, the Tuskegee Airmen should be recognized. But if the Pentagon is not recognizing cultural awareness months like Black History Month, there will be fewer opportunities to learn about the Tuskegee Airmen, the 6888, the Montford Point Marines, all Black units that have been considered American heroes under both Republican and Democratic administrations.
Yeah, definitely a lot of questions surrounding that decision. Ellie, we're hearing U.S. military service members just arrived in Guantanamo Bay to support what the Department of Defense calls, quote, illegal alien holding operations. What can you tell us about that?
Over the weekend, about 150 Marines arrived. They're starting to get the facilities ready to implement what President Trump has said he wants, which is to house up to 30,000 migrants at Guantanamo Bay. Now, there are facilities at Guantanamo Bay for migrants. There's a migrant operations center, but I talked to officials last week who said that the beds in that operations center as of last week were about 100, 150, so nowhere near the number 30,000 that President Trump is asking for. The Pentagon is moving to implement what President Trump wants, but there's still a lot of questions about how exactly to implement it. How many service members will be needed? How many migrants can be housed there? How much will this cost? And of course, when will the first flights of migrants get there?
And finally, Ellie, we want to ask you about President Trump's order to carry out airstrikes in Somalia targeting the Islamic State. What do we know so far about that situation?
Yes, on Saturday, President Trump ordered airstrikes against a senior ISIS attack planner and other ISIS fighters in the mountains of Somalia in Africa. Officials tell CBS that those strikes were carried out by F-18 fighter jets that came off of the USS Harry U.S. Truman aircraft carrier based in the Red Sea. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that multiple operatives were killed, and at this point, the Pentagon does not assess that any civilians were harmed. The Pentagon has carried out airstrikes in Somalia periodically over the years, primarily against al-Shabaab, which is an al-Qaeda affiliate. These strikes against ISIS, though, come after that New Orleans terror attack that was inspired by ISIS and after the fall of the Syrian government that officials have warned ISIS may try and take advantage of to grow.
All right, Ellee Watson, thank you so much for all of that reporting today.